we're going to have to spend to help that retailer down the street.
And that's tough when you're scared,
That's
you know,
right.
when you're trying to kind of hold on to everything. So how do we encourage people to do that?
Well, again, we have to have confidence in our jobs and what we're doing. And you know, the stimulus package that President-elect Obama is going to be coming out with, that's going to help, or should help. I don't know all the nuts and bolts of it yet, but there's a lot of anticipation as far as what it's going to do for us.
Great. Well, this has been very informative. We'll have other resources that will be available, and we'll put some links if you have anything that you'd like to send consumers to just get more financial literacy in general and a better understanding of really what's going on in our economy. But I think this has given us a good snapshot of kind of how we got here, what some of those factors were, how folks in the local community are being affected. And we thank you so much for coming on the program and letting us know, and thanks so much.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thanks for being here, and we hope to also do some work with the foreclosures that are happening in the community as well, and learn about that.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks. I'm here with Martin Eichner, who is the Director of HUD Counseling Programs at Project Sentinel, a local group that helps folks with foreclosure issues. And tell us a little bit about what's going on in the market right now.
Well, the foreclosure crisis has been hitting parts of this area very hard for more than a year now. The projection is that this coming year, 2009, will be bad, if not worse. And in Santa Clara County is not as bad as other parts of California. It's still amongst the top 10 foreclosure areas in the United States, though.
Really? Top 10 in the United States?
It is, and most of the homes that are being lost are concentrated in certain neighborhoods in certain parts of the county. So in those areas, the actual loss is even higher, is very high.
And what are some of those areas that are being affected most greatly by the foreclosures in our community?
Unfortunately, the Gilroy, Morgan Hill area is one. Next to some parts of San Jose, that Morgan Hill, Gilroy area is the hardest hit in the county. Wow.
And what do you think the difference is between Morgan Hill and Gilroy in terms of, are you seeing more in Gilroy than in Morgan Hill, or about the same? Or?
We're seeing high numbers in both cities. Right. Again, they're concentrated in certain neighborhoods in those cities as well. Typically, unfortunately, the neighborhoods where the general income levels are lower.
So tell me a little bit about your group and what you do to help folks who are dealing with foreclosure or whose landlords dealing with foreclosure.
Well, Project Sentinel is a HUD certified housing counseling agency. We actually have 5 offices in Northern California, but 1 is in Gilroy. And we're certified by HUD to meet with homeowners, counsel them about their options, and if they decide that they would like us to go forward, we contact the lender on their behalf and try to renegotiate their loans or find some other, what we call, workout option. Some of the options are much better for the homeowners than others. Of course, a fair number of homeowners are very, very heavily, as we say, upside down. Their home values have fallen so badly that they've lost their equity. Wow. And many are tied into very, very bad loan products that most homeowners aren't going to be able to pay over a long period of time. So the combination of very bad loans and falling property values make it difficult for many homeowners to find any kind of option that will allow them to keep their homes.
And then, excuse me, we're also seeing a lot of people losing their jobs right now. So are you seeing a lot of that? The reason that somebody goes into foreclosure is that one person in the couple might lose their job, or somebody loses their job who owns their house. What kinds of issues are you seeing that people are really faced with?
That's definitely a contributing factor, but the wave started the other way around. The housing market collapsed before the job market collapsed. So most of the foreclosures are due to what I was talking about just now, the falling home prices and the bad loans. And of course, when one or more members of the household loses their job, that just makes it even more difficult to survive, but that isn't what started the current crisis.
So really, the interest rate issue.
It's not just the interest rate, it was the home prices. In all honesty, many home prices were overly inflated in California, and the prices were higher than any kind of real value for the home. So when they fell, in certain areas particularly, they fell very far. Sometimes half the value of the home was lost in a year.
And then another aspect was that even just starting as recently as September, I heard people saying, I can't get my home refinanced even. So then they had an arm that increased their loan payments every month.
Yeah, two things I think happened. One, there was no equity in the home in the first place because not only did the prices fall, but they had loans where they had mortgaged 100% of the value of the house or even more. So there was no equity to give them some leverage to refinance, and there was no equity because the value of the home had fallen. So that was part of it. But it's also true that as the banking crisis has increased over the last 3 or 4 months, many lenders just aren't loaning money to anybody, even well-qualified homeowners.
Are we starting to see a change at all in that?
I don't believe we've seen any significant change. Of course, many of us are hopeful that a change in Washington will produce some different policies out of Washington. There are a couple of plans that the Bush administration would not support that would help homeowners. So we're hoping that the new administration will support some of these new plans. And of course, you know, there's all those billions of dollars in bailout money, which was some of which was supposed to help homeowners directly, but of course the previous administration would not do that.
And the banks themselves were supposed to, part of the reason we gave them our tax dollars was so that they would then loan us money.
Right.
And they're still not doing that.
Right.
Like.
Whatever they did with that bailout money has not significantly loosened the lending market. And interest rates are down to about close to zero, historically at some of the lowest ever, but that hasn't helped either.
Well, and part of it, it seems like, is that we really didn't have some good policies in place in terms of government regulations that stopped sort of the greed by some of the mortgage industry and the banking industry, where they really kind of offered loans to people who really couldn't afford to get a home.
Absolutely. They call them liar loans, and we see them across the board where people were allowed to apply for loans and literally state any income necessary. They were putting $100,000 income on their loan applications.
Wow.
And their true income was more like 25.
Oh my goodness.
And you know, everyone was turning a blind eye because they were making their money from the transaction and walking away. And of course the loans were then sold to some other investor or some other bank. So everybody, the realtors, the mortgage brokers, took their fees and left.
So where are we now? How many foreclosures do we have in Gilroy, do you think?
I looked that up for somebody in the city recently. It was, and I don't have the numbers for you, but it was more than twice the percentage of the population of the county. So for Gilroy's percentage of population in Santa Clara County, the number of foreclosures was double.
So per capita was much higher than...
And Morgan Hill is close to that.
Okay.
I said only some parts of San Jose are worse.
Wow. So tell me just very briefly, because we're running out of time, what your organization can do to help someone who's gone into foreclosure, and when should we call you if that happens?
Well, the advice is always to call early.
Before you think you're going to not be able to make that
When you realize you're in trouble, you should try to get some help early.
Yep.
The reality is that the agencies in our county, including Project Sentinel, are overwhelmed with clients seeking help, and we cannot see people immediately anymore. People are often waiting several weeks to even get in. But basically what we will do is have the homeowner fill out an intake packet where they give us their financial position and their loan documents.
And where can we get this information?
Okay, you can call us toll free at 888-331-3332.
Okay, great.
And we have an office in Gilroy that can see people in this immediate area, but the actual counseling work is done primarily in our Sunnyvale office.
And they can also go to your website?
Website, which is www.housing.org. We're going to put a new page up, hopefully in the next week or so, which will have more foreclosure information, but there is a current link on foreclosure on the homepage of our website.
Well, we'll look forward to sending people to